All right.
All right. Now, speaker forever, hold your peace.
It's interesting. So you are currently sharing your screen, Stu. Is that right?
No.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool.
I
was like, I'm the only one that doesn't see it. All right. Hey, looks like we got a bunch of dudes here. Awesome. Hey, so man, really appreciate you guys taking some of your hard-earned time and spending it with us. Real quick, we'll just do a couple of intros and then dive into this webinar. We started doing a monthly webinar, this Kinetic Living, choosing different topics every month and talking through some of the things that we're focused on, and not only in the mastermind, but just things that we believe are have been enriching to our lives. And we believe that it'll be information for you that'll be time well spent, value add. And if you implement some of these things today, I think it'll definitely enrich your lives and help you to get closer to where you want to be. So first, Stu, who are you?
Oh man, who is Stu Grazier? So Stu, I am a born Texan, now Coloradan, claimed Coloradan. I just I'm a husband to my beautiful bride Crystal. I am a father of two amazing children. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. I just retired out of the Navy. I spent 20 years there flying primarily helicopters, and then flew some Boeing 737s for a few years. David and I were college roommates at the Naval Academy, and we have been best friends ever since. I'm still looking for a new best friend, so if anyone is out there, I'm in that hunt. But we have started a few businesses together. I had a very entrepreneurial mindset growing up, and started some businesses on the side doing real estate. David and I started some businesses doing real estate. And so we've been in that adventure together. And we have now started another business, the Storehouse Mastermind. David, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll tell you, it's a common theme. Stu's been looking for a best friend. He actually was looking for a friend for years, as long as I've known him. Personality is kind of grating, not really somebody that you want to spend a lot of time with. So that's why he's still on a search for a best friend. Hey, Steven, tell us who you are, bud.
I found my mute button. Hey guys, I'm Steven. I live in Philadelphia. I currently work for United Airlines. I was Air Force KC-10s for 12 years, didn't make it to retirement. I rage quit instead, and got connected with these two guys. Doing a bunch of the back-end technical stuff, and really have been, I originally joined these two to help them with the technical, but I've been converted just in terms of seeing like what this message does in terms of changing guys' lives. So glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Steven. And I'm David Gutierrez, for those who don't know me. Really the three most important things about me: 1, I love Jesus; 2, I love my family; and 3, I love my friends. And, for me, that's really been the foundation of why we do what we do and why I choose to spend my time with guys like Stu and Steven. And we try to build out this mastermind, build out groups of men, build out a community, and really try to help become the best people that we can become, but also help other men to become the best versions of themselves. And, 20-year vet, like Stu said, we went to the Naval Academy together. Hold on, I jacked up my screen here, Stu.
Sorry, buddy.
20-year vet, been doing entrepreneurial stuff 15 or so years, really got serious about it with Stu for the last 5 years, started a number of businesses, like he said. And that's what brought us to where we are today. And the focus of, the focus of the Storehouse Mastermind and really this business we're trying to build is really a community. And why we did that, like any good business, we have a mission statement, and it highlights what we were seeing in our own lives, and also highlight what we were seeing in the lives of a bunch of just very high performing individuals, right? Whether they're senior military officers, whether they're entrepreneurs in different groups that we're part of, or just our general network. We were seeing men living without purpose, adventure, or meaningful relationships. And it was heartbreaking to see, it was heartbreaking to experience. But we fully believe that men can be the heroes of their journeys through intentionality, action, and a tribe, to become the men their wives celebrate, the men their sons want to become, the men their daughters want to marry, and the men their friends call brother. And we are men of impact, and that is our goal. And while we, a lot of these things that we developed are very specific and deep dives into the men's mastermind. We also recognize that this message and that the intentionality, the study of these different topics are things that can really make anybody's life better. And so we started doing these webinars to share some of our takeaways and some of the conversations that we're having. All right, so to that point, we established the Kinetic Life Circle, which when you look around this circle, it's areas that we identified as critical growth areas. And if you focus on these areas, we believe that you can absolutely change your life. And just being aware of these elements and intentionally seeking to understand and apply them is absolutely life-changing. So you can imagine if you're in a group of men talking about, family, well, there are some insights that you don't have, some perspectives that you don't have, and just a level of focus when you prepare to have a conversation about your family that'll open insights into your life. And we believe that happens throughout every topic on this circle. And so today we wanted to pull one of those out, and we're going to talk through mindset. Excuse me. Now, mindset is not only something that we believe is huge in personal development, but it's also a strong indicator of our potential. We also know, and research supports, that our mindset can be changed. It can be developed. It can be grown. It's not just where we are, a snapshot in time, and how we've gotten to that place, but it's something that if we're intentional about and we address it, it's something that we can absolutely change and grow. Hit me with the next slide, Stu. All right, so what do we mean by mindset? There are a variety of studies, articles, books you can read and reference to establish a foundation of knowledge. And we've gone through a number of books. We've read the scientific journals. We've really tried to understand what mindset means, not only for us, but how do we apply it? How do we talk about it? How are we smart on it? How can we be a resource for others who are interested in mindset or looking to develop their mindset? And so most importantly, though, is how can your mindset be a basis for action and something that you can develop? With a quick, simple search, if you go in and Google mindset, the resources are plentiful, right? I found articles on the 7 mindsets that will radically improve your life right now. And that author describes things like the self-trust mindset, the goal-setting mindset, patient, courageous, focused, positive, the learn mindset. There's another author who described 15 mindsets. He had 15 of them. Social, growth, fear, lazy mindset, the envy, the business, the dreamer, the follower, the greed mindset. There's the gratitude, the confident, the creative, the short term, the angry, and then of course the productive mindset. And there are other folks that are ascribing to the 3 mindsets. And then there's Psychology Today article talking about the 4 mindsets. Now, the point here is that there are a ton of thoughts and a ton of research on mindset. And it's very helpful. And it's also great that we have plentiful resources from which to find how we're wired, and maybe even some of these resources will offer us tips on how to do something about it. But for me personally, I just find this extremely overwhelming. The number of mindsets out there, the combination of mindsets, and which one am I, and which one of these 1,000 different combinations of mindsets am I, and how does that help me? How is it practical? Can I do something about it? Is it just who I am? Is it a self-awareness exercise? What is the point? And so I personally found it very overwhelming. And most importantly, I did not find myself able to take action. And I'll say, discovery and self-awareness are extremely, extremely important. But to me, you have to be able to take action to develop and even change the things that you do and the mindset that you have. And I believe that skill and that implementation is critical. So we want to make an important point. Look, I do not believe that I have the answers on what you should read, what you should subscribe to, and what you should act on. However, we strongly believe that intentionally seeking to understand your personal mindset and then pursuing a course of action to proactively assess and address where you are currently is essential to a full life. And I think if many of us, especially us men, are not being intentional and taking the time and setting it aside to truly develop these skills, and we're not doing the work to truly grow our mindset and to change, quite frankly, to change the way we act. Excuse me. I believe that many people are floating through life and they're not seeking knowledge on or making a plan for the life that they want to live. And a lot of guys that we talk to have no idea what life that they want to live, right? They'll use words like comfort and success. And some of them will even get a little more specific, say, I want to be a millionaire. But in every single one of these conversations I've had, I ask one question. Well, what does that mean, right? What does success mean? And I have yet, outside of our group of men who've really dove into these topics, I have yet to find the guy that says, well, success to me is defined by, X, Y, Z, and this is what it looks like. Comfort. What does comfort look like? I have no idea. I just want to be comfortable. Well, how do you shoot for a target that you have no idea what it means if you're not defined it, figured out where you are on that map and where you want to be? And so the key is to stop the floating, right? The key is to identify, define the life you want to live. And one big step in that is understanding your mindset. And you can alter your life by asking yourself these hard questions and then dedicating yourself to answer them and live the results. And I think there's a lot of power in that. We just need to do it. So mindset is an aspect fully within all of our power to understand and alter and serve us and our goals and our dreams. But again, it requires effort. So for us, and you'll see here, there's a picture of Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. After we've read several books and conducting our own personal research on mindset, we continually go back to this book, Carol Dweck's research and her book, Mindset. And I'll tell you what we love about her approach is not only the years of research that she's done to establish two mindsets, the growth and the fixed mindset, which is way easier to grasp, wrap your head around than 15, 20, 7, 4, 3, whatever it is. Two mindsets, the growth and the fixed mindsets. But I think the part that we love the most about this book and about her paradigm and her framework is that the substantial work that they've done, or that she's done, to give practical and actionable steps to change and fortify the growth mindset while recognizing and countering the fixed mindset. She defines them. She makes it clear. She helps us to recognize them in our lives through our actions and the things that we're doing, the things that we're saying, and the mindset that we're cultivating. And then we could do something about it. Next slide, Sue. All right, so let's do a quick test. All right, and this was a test that I found in again, that book, Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. So we're gonna determine which mindset you have through these 4 simple questions. Actually, there's 8. There's 2 tests. Answer the following question about intelligence and answer them honestly. I'll read them out, but they're on the screen, but I'll read them out for those of you driving. So there's 4 statements and you decide which of them you mostly agree, or if you mostly agree or you disagree with each statement, okay? So statement 1, your intelligence is something very basic about you that you can't change very much. So your intelligence is something basic about you that you can't change very much. Do you disagree or you agree with that statement? Second statement, you can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are. So you can learn new things, but you cannot change how intelligent you are. Third statement, no matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit. So no matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit. And the final statement, you can always substantially change how intelligent you are. You can always substantially change how intelligent you are. Okay, so question 1 and 2, those are the fixed mindset questions. 3 and 4 are the growth mindset. Which did you agree with more? And be honest. What was your response to each of those questions? Okay. You can also be a mixture, but most people lean one way or another. You also have those beliefs about other abilities. And so what I would challenge you when you have time is substitute the word intelligence for things like artistic talent or sports sports ability, business skill. These things that we believe are abilities, just substitute that in there and ask yourself the same question to figure out if you have a growth or a fixed mindset. Okay. Second test. All right, test 2. The next set of questions, these next set are going to address your personal qualities. So answer these questions about personality and character and tell which one you agree or most, say whether you agree or mostly disagree with each of these. Okay, the first statement. You are a certain kind of person and there is not much that can be done to really change that. Second statement. No matter what kind of person you are, you can always change substantially. Third statement. You can do things differently, but the important parts of who you are can't really be changed. And finally, you can always change basic things about the kind of person you are. All right, so question 1 and 3 are the fixed mindset questions, and 2 and 4 reflect the growth mindset. So which should you agree with more? And be honest, because this is being honest, some of them sound good and some of them don't, but when you relate with the question, you can get a baseline for truly where your mind is, what you tend towards. And on this second set, did it differ from your intelligence mindset? Because it can, right? Your intelligence mindset is all about situations involving mental ability. Excuse me. Your personality mindset is apparent in situations involving your personal qualities, like how dependable you are, how cooperative you are, how caring or socially skilled you are. The fixed mindset makes you concerned with how you'll be judged. The growth mindset makes you concerned with improving. So think about it. In your social interactions, are you concerned about how you perceive people perceive you, how you're being judged? And how important is that to you? Because it makes a big deal. It makes a big difference, and it makes a big deal on the way that you perceive how far you can go. And it also makes a difference on the actions that you're willing to take. So that's just a quick taste, and it goes way more in depth. But the simple exercise helps you understand your mindset in the beginning of potential change. So were you surprised by your questions? Were you surprised by your unfiltered responses? And I think it's an important step to just simply take, not good or bad. It just helps you to understand where you are and the way you think about things. And I'm also curious if you feel slightly more aware of how you tend to think. With 8 simple questions, again, this was 5-minute exercise. For me, this was extremely important because it just helped me to quantify how aware I am of the way that I think and the ways that I have a fixed mindset, the ways that I have a growth mindset. And again, more importantly, what do I do about it? Stu, over to you.
All right. So what? So what do we do about it? What do we do to change our mindset? What if we saw that we had a fixed mindset and realized that we should probably start moving towards a growth mindset? Or what if we said we did have a growth mindset, and what if we want to just increase that growth mindset? So what do we do about it? So let's take a raise of hands just real fast. Right hand, raise it up as high as you can. Who wants to change? All right, as high as you can. Now, go a little bit farther. See if you can go just a little bit higher up, as high as you can. Why didn't you guys raise your hand the first time as high as you can when I said to raise it as high as you can? What happened there?
Because it was outside of the view of the camera. So it would make sense to go all the way up.
Right. Good call. Could say you go like this. No, but seriously,
James said his traps got in the way, but then somehow his traps moved. They moved, and he was able to get it higher.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, but seriously, like this simple exercise of just raising your hand, didn't raise most of us, for what others I could see, it could go higher on the second time around, right? Why is that? The simple exercise proves that we all have some level of fear of discomfort or feel of being uncomfortable, or feeling like fear of like the unknown, or fear of stepping into adversity. We all have some level of that. Some people step into adversity a little bit more, But that's where we start. That's where we start with improving our growth mindset, changing from a fixed to a growth mindset. We start by intentionally stepping into that discomfort. We intentionally step into facing our fears. We intentionally try something new, do something hard. That's where we start. And in Carol Dweck's book, she has a couple great TED Talks. If you guys are curious about this and interested to learn more about it, but Carol Dweck says that we start by transforming the meaning of effort and difficulty. We change the way we look at effort. We change the way we look at failing. Every time we step outside of our comfort zone, we learn something new, we do something difficult, the neurons in our brains actually start to change, and they form new, stronger connections. And over time, we actually get smarter, one, and we continue to learn. And that's called neuroplasticity. I know it's a big word for all the Marines or Army guys, or David, I know that's a big word for you too, but neuroplasticity, we are continuing to grow and make stronger connections in our brain by doing these hard things. Something else that is, really important in having a growth mindset is surrounding yourself with others that have that same growth mindset. Surround yourself with other people that are seeking challenge, and surround yourself with people that are doing hard things, forcing you to grow through accountability, through growth. John Green, he has a book called Paper Towns, and he had a TED Talk, and he said to become a real learner and to really truly love to learn, we just need to find the right place to do it, and we need to find the right community to do it with. So if you don't have that, if you don't have a community of people that you're surrounding yourself with that are continuously trying to make themselves better, to continuously try to learn, to continuously push themselves to the next level, to grow, to do something hard, you aren't going to grow yourself. You can't do this alone. You cannot do this alone to really improve on that growth mindset. We also have to change the words. We have to change the words that we're talking to ourselves about. We have to change the words that we're telling others about. We have to change the words that we're telling our kids about, our family about. And Carol Dweck also talks about this phrase called the power of yet. In her TED Talk, she talks about a school in Chicago that they didn't do grades. They would have tests, and you either passed or you got a grade of not yet. And what was interesting about this school in Chicago is they had, when they did take, the national tests, the state tests, they outranked everybody. They didn't have any grades in class. They either had basically passing or not yet, but they crushed these national tests. And why is that? I thought about, the experiences in my life. And so I flew helicopters at first in the Navy. This is one of this was my first big deployment. This was in 2004. I was new to a squadron. Our squadron was doing a new mission. We were stationed in northern Kuwait, flying into southern Iraq. We were doing air ambulance, doing medical evacuations. The other guys in this picture, two of them were my classmates, were David and my classmates from the Naval Academy, and they were aircraft commanders, which means basically they signed for the helicopter. They were in charge of the mission. They were in charge of the aircraft. They flew. Everything that happened on that mission, they were responsible for. I was not an aircraft commander yet. I had kind of gotten held up in flight school. I checked in late to the squadron in comparison to my classmates. And they held me back to go on this new mission, this new detachment. And so I was a co-pilot. I had not qualified to be an aircraft commander just yet, but I was studying to be an aircraft commander. And my peers, my colleagues, were already signed up for aircraft and flying. To become an aircraft commander, not only do you have to have experience, you have to have your qualifications, a bunch of sign-offs, a bunch of training. You have to go through what's called a HAC board, a helicopter aircraft commander board. And typically they would have the commanding officer on that board. They would typically have like a a pretty senior pilot, typically like a lieutenant commander, which is an 04 in the Navy, and a couple other aircraft commanders on that. And they would just grill you with questions. They would ask you all these hard, crazy, off the wall questions that could maybe happen if you were the aircraft commander and signing for it. I was pretty confident myself because of just I was a little bit older of a co-pilot. My other colleagues were already aircraft commanders. I'd been flying for a while. Well, I got into this board, it was a practice board actually. And they actually had another 04, a lieutenant commander on the board. And he started grilling me with some questions I didn't know how to answer. And, I thought I was going to pass this board and go right into the next big board, next couple of days with my commanding officer so he could sign me off. And the lieutenant commander who was running this practice board, after we got done, he said, "You're not ready yet." And I was crushed. I mean, in my mind, it was a failure. I was ready to move on to get that sign off, that qualification. But this lieutenant commander, he didn't think I was ready yet. But it wasn't a fail. It wasn't a, you're done. You're never going to be an aircraft commander. It was, you're not ready yet. And I've thought about that. What it did for me was it motivated me to study more, to ask more questions, to get into the books, to put myself in situations, to think about every single situation that I could possibly be in as an aircraft commander. And it helped me understand that I am on this learning curve, and it gives me a path to the future. If you're not on this, living this life of yet, well, it's the opposite. It's basically the tyranny of now. And Carol Dweck talks about the tyranny of now being, that's basically a fixed mindset. If you're not living in the power of yet, living in the world of yet, well, when you hit failure, you quit, you shut down, you cower, you run away from challenge, or you cheat, or you look for other people that did worse than you, so it'll make you feel better about yourself. Is it anybody know anybody like that they've experienced, or have you experienced anything like that yourself, where you run into failure and you just quit, or you give up, or you see somebody else that is trying to cheat or knock somebody else down to make themselves feel better? There's a lot of people in this world that are like that, right? What about our kids? Are we raising our kids to live in the yet, or are we raising our kids to be in the tyranny of now? What are we asking them? What are we talking to them about? Are we teaching them to have a growth mindset? Are we teaching them to just get the straight A's, to get the grades? Are we teaching them that they get a trophy like every time they show up? What have you guys seen? I'm just curious. Like, do you feel like what are the things that we're doing as parents? One of the most important things for David and I is to be the best dads that we can possibly be. So as parents, how are we showing up for our kids, and how are we raising our kids to have a growth mindset? I'm going to open up. Come off mute and tell me like what you are doing to teach your kids to have a growth mindset. Anybody?
Hey, Stu, Joe Zakowski here.
Yeah.
So, I'm on board with what you guys are saying. I've been kind of living this life of yet and growth for the past few years, so I'm glad I found you guys in the community that's actually doing this, because it is kind of lonely out there when you're running around trying to figure it all out yourself. But for the one thing that I know that works for me is exposing to my children my weaknesses, where I fall short, and letting them know that I'm not just getting off the horse at that moment. And if they're interested, because I spent a long time, like maybe a lot of other fathers did, trying to shove things down their throat, And all you do is you get met with resistance at that point. But just, taking the opportunity to show them what I'm doing, how I failed, why I failed, and what I'm doing to recover. And I think that, whether you think they're paying attention or not, I think over the long run, that's the golden ticket.
I love that, man. Goody, you want to share a comment that we just got in our mastermind WhatsApp group about similar to what Joe's talking about?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I also want to make clear, this isn't always we don't know that we're doing something wrong, right? Like when we go to our kids and we say, man, you are so smart, like that doesn't naturally resonate as something that is potentially damaging. And it's just the intentionality of the questioning, right? Because you're celebrating something that is fixed. You're so smart. Instead of potentially changing it up and saying, man, I love how hard you tried and you got a great grade. How can you even do better? And it just shifts. It's a shift in language. It's a shift in questions. And a lot of times we don't recognize the pressure we're putting. And one of the guys in our group chat, I'll just quickly summarize it. He said that he had an amazing and emotional conversation with his 15-year-old daughter about the pressure he puts on her about grades. And she was taking my sincere but probably too frequent questions about grades in school, which are good, her grades are good, as a huge stressor. I do it because no one much cared about my grades, which were good. Lesson for me, don't necessarily overdo what was undone for me. Might be a different version of the same mistake. I'm grateful to have the dialogue and not have her fester in silence. So there's a number of things there, right? They've clearly established a relationship where they can have open communication, which is huge, which every father wants with their kid. But there was also this unspoken expectation that was being perceived to not be met based on grades, based on a final product. And it was something that he came to realization because his daughter came and spoke to him about it, which is a beautiful thing. But how many of our kids are not comfortable with that? How many of our kids feel that the grade is the most important thing? I know growing up for me, it was all grades. It was always what I brought home. It was never about the process, never about the effort. And that set a very specific mindset for me growing up. And that's just the power of parenting, right? That's the power of the questions that we ask. And it also, if we recognize in ourselves a fixed mindset, like, hey, grades are super, super important. Well, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but it at least enables us to say, okay, well, let me ask a follow-on question, or let me lead with, hey, are you working your hardest? And I've completely changed the way that I talk to my kids. And again, it's not letting them off the hook. It's not lessening the expectation for excellence, but it's driving home the, hey, you guys lost that game. What could you have done better? How can you prepare for the next time? It's encouraging, but it's also challenging to the process, not necessarily the end result. Which I don't know about you guys, but how many of you have failed significantly more than you've succeeded? I mean, I know I have. Like, it's not even.
I've never failed. I don't know what you're
Yeah,
talking
because you don't try. You're not the man in the arena. That's just the thing behind your desk. But it's important to recognize. I've been telling my kids that this is a message I've been harping on with my kids is, hey guys, we are going to fail so much in life, but we're going to fail forward. And we're going to come out better than we were because we learned something. What did we learn from the failure? And so it's just a changing slightly of the language and the focus, which has been completely empowering and quite frankly, life-changing to me and hopefully for my kids. Yeah.
And this isn't, this webinar isn't just about, how we're being parents and raising our children, but it drives a point of just the words that we're using, both to our kids, to our family, but also internally to ourselves. And we shouldn't be praising the results. We shouldn't be just praising the intelligence or the talent. We should be praising the process. And we should be finding joy in that process, right? We should be praising the effort, like David said, the focus, praising the perseverance, praising, honestly, the failures, right? We create kids that are hardy and resilient instead of ones that need that constant validation. And we give ourselves and we give our children, we give our family members a path into the future that creates greater persistence. Have you guys heard of the story with who's the woman, the CEO of Spanx? I'm blanking on her name right now, but she, at the dinner table, she would always get asked by her father, "What did you fail at today?" Right? The dad praised failure. They praised his daughter for trying and failing. So how are you showing up and having conversations at the dinner table, or conversations with your children, talking into the car? You know, we talk about that a lot in the Storehouse Mastermind. Like, what are you talking about with your kids when they're in the car? Because that's a prime time to be asking those questions. What do you say to them when they get out of the car? Now, I've started telling my kids, "Hey, go try something new today." And then I ask them when they come home for dinner, "Hey, did you try something new today? Did you do something hard today? Did you fail at something today?" Because that's what I want to praise. That's what I want to congratulate them on, versus just getting an A+100 on that test, right? We want to get them into that growth mindset of always failing forward. Any other thoughts? Any other ideas on that? With just internal words, internal stuff that we can be telling ourselves or out external to our kids.
Hey, Stu,
So-
this is Jeff. Dave
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head with something, and it's a question that we ask around our dinner table all the time, which is, what did you learn from that?
Yeah.
You know, and especially in terms of, and then recognizing that failure is defined by us and the goals that we set, right? You know, my son went out on a whim and was like, "I'm gonna try out for the soccer team." I was like, "You haven't played soccer since you were 8." And so he's like, "Yeah, but if, you know, so I have no expectation to make the team. If I do, great. If I don't, you know." And he came home and he's like, "I didn't make the team." He's like, "Yeah, but I tried." Like, that's cool. And, you know, and so, right, that was the goal. Many people would have said that the goal would have been making the team. His goal was just lacing up his cleats and going out and seeing what would happen, you know? So how you define that goal and that question, what do you learn? What did you learn? What can you do different? Those have become two very big favorites at our house when we're trying to get the kids talking. And I find that by asking questions that start with what is a lot easier to get them talking and get them on a path, other than how was school? Good. You know, what'd you do at lunch? I ate.
What's your favorite part of the day? Recess. It's good, man. I love it.
Right. So one thing I have, Stu and David, that I just want to make sure that I think we're kind of walking that line where the participation trophy generation, and then I agree with the failing forward and learning from your mistakes. And I do agree with rewarding the process, but at the same time, it's really what the end result and what you get from that process, that whether you reward or you don't reward. So good example, right? So I coach YMCA and travel baseball, and I usually set an expectation before every season that if we don't win the championship or we don't move on, then that's it. There is no participation trophy. There is no celebration on the fact that we came in last place or second to last or whatever. If you work hard and everything comes together, you end up winning and you have a result there. But if you don't, as long as you learn from it, then the next season you put everything together and maybe you'll strive for that end result. But I get a lot of pushback, or at least I did a few years ago, from a couple of parents where they think everybody should get a trophy at the end of the season to reward the season. And I completely disagree with that. That you can have a great season and not win, and you can fail. But as long as you learn, the winning is you're enjoying the sport, you're learning things, right? Because kids, fundamentals and sportsmanship and just kind of learning all of that together are the things that you should get out of it. But at the end, there isn't a trophy or a medallion or something you give out just because they participated. It's really learning from the process and then the end result. So when I talk to my kids, my son, for example, he's in 7th grade. He's very hard on himself. He's always looking at the grades, but like my wife and I talked to him, well, it's all about how much effort you put in, right? For that test, right? As Jeff was talking about with regards to the next tryout, if you put in the effort and you put in the time and the preparation, chances are when the opportunity presents itself, you're going to succeed. But if you do none of that, and then it kind of expect the result to happen, what's that saying? Don't be upset about the results for the work that you didn't put in or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
So I we teach that to, or at least my wife and I do, to our kids, that it's all about preparation. If you go into something not prepared, not putting any effort into it, not being focused on it, chances are the outcome's not going to come out to what you want. And don't be upset when the outcome's not what you want. But at the same time, I just don't want to go towards, hey, you tried your best, you didn't get it, but here's a reward for at least you trying your best. You see what I'm saying?
No,
It's kind of like
it's a great
line.
point, Dave. Yeah, it's a great point. And I'll tell you, one of the proudest moments I've had as a dad was last year. After I can't remember what season it was. My daughter, I think it was a soccer season. And they wrapped up, didn't have a particularly great year, got a trophy. My daughter came up and she's like, Dad, why are we getting a trophy? This is ridiculous. And I was like, I agree with you 100%, sweetie. I agree with you 100% because it's not about the trophy. And you guys didn't, quite frankly, you didn't earn. I asked her, do you believe that you guys earned a trophy? And she said, no. And I was like, awesome. So what can we do about it to get better next year? And we came up with, I could run more, work out, all these things. And that's the goal, right? So just to be 100% clear, Stu and I are huge believers in the free range children movement, the, let grow movement, this, I don't know if you've ever read Coddling of the American Mind, but, we actually had the co-author, Lenore Skenazy on our podcast, and we're huge believers in this. Participation is not, the trophy is not the point. And we're actually damaging our children with that. That mentality is damaging our children. They're not resilient because they think that there is a trophy at the end of, well, if you didn't earn a trophy, you didn't earn a trophy. And I've been talking to my kids about the Super Bowls coming up, right? There's one champion every year. Doesn't mean everybody else's season was a waste as long as you grew and you get better. I was like, but look at the Rams. We talk to the kids about these examples. You can be the best and go to the worst like that. And that's in everything, business, school, whatever, but as long as you're pushing. So yeah, I love your point, man, because we are 1000% anti this idea of, petting the ego at the cost of growing resilience. Because it doesn't work.
I think you find out, you hear all these stories, right? There's the girl from, I think it was Stanford, and there was another one over at like Virginia Commonwealth or something, where I think the parents or the lifestyle they grew up were setting certain expectations. And then when those expectations were not met, unfortunately, at least some of the generation now, it leads to things like depression, suicide, completely going off the cliff because they didn't either get into med school, they didn't make their soccer team, whatever it is. And I think that's the detrimental part, I think, of not failing forward, or at least allowing your kids to understand that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not meet certain expectations as long as you put in the preparation effort. But if you don't, it's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
As long as we're putting in our best effort and we know that, hey, maybe there's options, maybe there's alternatives. But when kids think there's no alternative, then I think that's where you end up with the horror stories that you hear nowadays on the news.
Yeah. Coddling of the American Mind talks about that a lot. Kunda, it's a great book. If you haven't read it, highly suggest it. Okay. So here's our challenge. It's 2023. We started this webinar series with mindset, with growth mindset, because if you have a mindset to grow, you're going to do incredible things. Our challenge is to go do hard things. So we have a saying in the Grazier household, GDHT, Graziers do hard things. We talk about it all the time. We went and climbed a 14er in September. Stephen came out. It was I think it was the highest elevation that Stephen has ever been, living in Philadelphia. But that's the call to action this year. In 2023, if you take anything away from this webinar, go do something hard. Like seek challenge, step into adversity, go climb a 14er, sign up for a marathon, or go do some like crazy David Goggins style, 48-hour craziness challenge, right? Where you don't sleep and or 75 hard or something like that. Or maybe it's just like take a course on something that you're interested in that you've never taken before. Go learn something new, or like go have that like hard conversation with a family member that you've been dreading for a long, long time. I had a pretty hard conversation with my father around the holidays that I'm kind of an introvert. I am a passive aggressive type of person. And I finally just stepped up and had a hard conversation with my father that has been needed to be had for a long time. So maybe it's that, right? And then change the words you're saying to yourself, and then change the words that you're saying to your kids. And then also, as a dad or parent, let your kids see you do these hard things. So then they mirror you down the road. Let them see the values that you have in your life that are important to you. Let them see you working out, at 5 a.m. in the morning. Talk about your climb on the 14er, so that motivates them later on down the road for them to go do hard things. Maybe it's you're saying whatever your last name is, we do hard things. Graziers do hard things. Gutierrez's do hard things.
We roll our R's in our house. Gutierrez's do hard things.
Gutierrez's
Yeah.
do hard things.
There you go.
I like it.
All right.
That's one thing that I have a goal for, right? Like we were talking about this with a group of our men recently about like allowing your kids to be a part of and participate in you doing something new, expanding your boundaries and your horizons, things like that, right? Like my father passed on a whole bunch of skills to me. We have an imperfect relationship, but he passed on some important skills to me, how to change my oil, how to do these different things, right? But it was things that he knew how to do, and I think there's value in that too. But like I was sharing with you guys earlier, right? Like I have this dream now, this goal. My kids are small, but as they grow up, right? Like through the military, through growing up in Texas, I know how to shoot really well. I'm a very good shot with a rifle, with a pistol, everything. But I have never been like truly hunting, right? And so I have this like long-term goal of like, I want to learn how to hunt. It's going to require seeking out new friends, seeking out new skills, doing things that I have not done before, right? And doing those with my kids, so that when my kids are adults, right? Like I want to be that father that's 60 years old and my 40-year-old son takes me elk hunting later on because he's a better hunter than I am, right? It's like there's this aspect of like expanding your horizons and including your kids with you that I think I have started to learn as a parent.
Well, you're gonna have to come out here to Colorado and climb some more 14ers, dude, to prepare for the elk hunts at altitude. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
United Hub, Denver. All right, man. Hey, we're wrapping up, but we want to leave you with a couple quotes that I thought were pretty impactful from Carol Dweck's book. The first one is, what are the consequences of thinking that your intelligence or personality is something you can develop as opposed to something that is fixed, that is a fixed deep-seated trait? So what are the consequences of actually thinking that your intelligence and your personality are something that you can develop, right? And I think that is extremely powerful, because just the recognition and the embracing of the fact that these are things that are in our power to change is power giving, it's life giving, and it gives hope that we can have a better future and we can become the people that we want to become. And the second quote is, it's one thing to have pundits spouting their opinions about scientific issues. It's another thing to understand how these views apply to you. For 30 years, my research has shown that the view you adopt for yourself, let me say again, the view that you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. It can determine whether you become the person you want to be and whether you accomplish the things you value. So again, right, the view that you adopt for yourself has such a profound effect that it can determine whether you become the person you want to be and whether you accomplish the things that you value. And to me, those were just extremely powerful quotes, because it puts the power back in our hands. It puts the ball in our court, and we are able to and empowered to make significant changes. And we're not born into a situation, right? We are born into potentially an environment, but how we choose to to manifest and to change and to act on that's on us. That's in our power. So finally, just how do these things make you feel? More importantly, do they encourage and inspire you that change and growth is possible? And our hope that this conversation at least opens a chapter of self-exploration, but also of action taking. So I really want to thank you guys. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for your contributions. And if you'd like to connect with us, here's a couple of ways on the slide. You can find us on the socials, LinkedIn. We have a podcast, Filling the Storehouse, that you can listen to, and check out our website. It's storehouse310.com, and it just kind of gives you some insight into things that we're focused on, that we're doing. And there's an amazing group of dudes that we've surrounded ourselves with that have really helped refine and challenge us to be better dudes. Awesome.
I don't
Any
know
questions?
if they've
Any
made
last
you
comments? Go ahead.
better quite yet, but
Hey,
you're working.
We don't talk about that. We just, it's just try to convince others. Awesome.
So we'll I mean, this is kind of the end of our chat. We'll keep it open for a couple minutes here. We have about 8 minutes left until the middle of the hour, but guys, thanks for joining us. I'm going to hit the stop record button, but we can hang out and chit chat, reconnect, answer questions, whatever you guys want to do, but feel free to jump off if you want to. Thanks for coming, guys.
Hey, did you guys find this useful? I mean, anybody chime in? Did this open any perspectives that you potentially hadn't considered previously?
Yeah, Dave, it was awesome.
No, I like it. How often do you guys do these type of get-togethers?
We're going to do it once a month. This
month?
specific
webinar.
Kinetic Living webinar series will be once a month, and we're going to go through, talk about the things that we're, some of the big ticket items that we're talking about in the mastermind.
And I'm looking at your website. I do not see where I put in the 2002 Naval Academy discount. Where do I put that in?
It's actually an
Now that-
upcharge.
It's an upcharge because we know how awesome you are, because you're part of that class. It's an upcharge.
Oh, great.
So next month we're going to do these generally the first Monday of every month. We didn't do it the first Monday in January because that fell on I think the second, and these two old men were still recovering on that close to the New Year. So but I think that actually should be the first Monday, and the plan actually right now is it'll be like intimacy, which is talking obviously February. That one is like chock full of actionable things you can walk away from. We've got some guys that are really amazing at coming up with some clever ideas that high impact, low cost, low effort type of ideas. So
Hey, Dave.
Yes, sir.
And Stu, I'll add something.
Yeah, please.
Just from my own experience in the last year, when you get together with a group of men like this, all very, very, successful in different walks of life, you get more comfortable being vulnerable, opening up, and noticing that some of the things that you may have, you dealing with in secret, most of us are dealing with it, right? You just push it down. I don't want to deal with that. I'm supposed to be strong. This is, that sort of thing, especially if you're leading people. It's not, you don't have people, peers that you could go to and, admit in a forum that, hey, they're wrestling with the same thing. Even though they're successful in other areas of their lives, they still want to grow. They still want to work on some things that they not. One of the things with me, I think I've been very successful in my life. I'm very positive and have a growth mindset, but it doesn't mean that I don't have this proclivity to, some limiting mindsets or limiting behaviors to surface at times, right? I have to deal with, hey, here that demon comes again, trying to haunt me. How do I deal with that, right? So even people who feel that they are, nines in general in growth mindset or in that circle, you know, most of us are not perfect, except for Dave Gutierrez.
Thank you for acknowledging that,
No,
Dave
no.
Perez. I
I wanted to
appreciate.
take the opportunity
Yeah.
in public to acknowledge
Thank you,
that.
and I wish we were still recording.
You are the
Unfortunately,
you
We
are
are.
the bar. You are the bar.
thank you for that.
But it's huge to be able to, and the group that's able to say, hey, Dave, you said you're going to be working on that and hold you accountable, right? What actions have you taken, right? And it's not a judgment thing. It's because we love each other and we committed to each other, that they come back and say, I want to see you grow. What actions have you taken to move the bar towards that goal that you put? Oh
Yeah.
shit, you know, I'm falling short. Yeah, I'll get back with you next week with a list of things. And it does motivate you, right? That's just the only way. I've been a coach in different realms, and it's nearly impossible. You got to be Superman to not fall short sometimes. And you know, it's always better when you have somebody there to answer to, right? That you respect and trust. So I wanted to share that because it certainly helped me this last year level up.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing, dude.
Yeah. And we
It's interesting.
did not pay Dave Perez to say all that stuff ahead of time.
No, and Dave's a ninja. Don't let
Yeah.
him fool you. Dude is a ninja.
Dave, what you said actually made me think of something like, you know, you saying like, I'm successful, but I still have like limiting mindsets. I wrote down in my book here, like, I'm curious in the next 24 hours, like I'm going to try and call out one limiting mindset that I find, you know, like just as like a takeaway to think about this thing for 24 hours. Because all of us can find one.
Oh, absolutely. And those are things that psychologists say you can't, this limiting behavior, you know, they set typically when you're young, when you're a kid, for your environment, things that were said to you, things that you internalize. So you could reframe, you could build other mindsets to strengthen. But, you know, awareness is step one to start improving on those things. And that's what comes out here, right? Feeling safe, where no one's going to judge you and say, you know, yeah, James is number one guy to admit all the failures and all the shortcomings, right, James? No, but seriously, when he does, I'm like, damn, I'm not as honest.
Yeah.
I'm not as honest. I need to step up my game and be more vulnerable and more honest, because that's what a man is all about, right? Having the courage to say, you know, I wasn't that good, or I make these mistakes, I fall short all the time.
Dave, what you were saying about upper limiting beliefs is interesting. I read a book not too long ago called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and it really got me inspired to. I started talking to my kids about upper limiting beliefs too. You know, there are so many times I fell victim to it, and well, you know, I'm only going to be able to do that because that's all I've ever been able to do, right? I'm 40 some odd years old, so the best I could hope to do is just finish a 10K, never mind be competitive or whatever it may be, right? Like, is that really where your limit is, or is that where you just assume the limit is? And here in the trap or the box we set ourselves into, and then how you frame that for yourselves in terms of goal setting and things like that, I think is so huge. But it was when I read that book, The Big Leap, and it's a little hokey, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. It really opened my eyes to that too, and then trying to open my kids to that, like, why? You know,
Yeah.
why do you think that that's as good as you can do? You know, go out and try it. What's
I'll
the
check
worst that
that out.
happens? Yeah.
I'll check out that book, but I wanted to share that because it's not that you won't, you will, right? Even if you've been working on it for 3, 5 years, 10 years, right? What you become is better aware when that's coming, that's coming to haunt you. It happens now since I retired. I'm trying to land the best job that will pay for you know, what I could contribute to. I'm not getting it yet, right? What creeps in is because I've had 33 years of military, you know, success, and getting promoted all the time, right? So now it's like, I didn't get it. What do you mean? or it's like, damn, I suck, right? Maybe I'm not as, good enough. Maybe they just blow up my mind in the military, right? It's just harder. But what's important is the tools that you learn in a team like this is how do you deal with that, right? It's normal for that to creep up if you have those limited perceptions or minds or behaviors. It's how do I deal with that? By the next day, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a coach. I'm gonna work on my resume. I'm gonna target, my network, right? Because that's what's gonna lead to success. Not saying, fuck, these people don't honor veterans, or blaming someone else, right? That's not gonna land me a job. Or saying, oh, I'll take an $80,000 job. That's not gonna work either.
Tim, what were you gonna say?
I'm right with you there, Dave. First thing I noticed, why are all these O2 USNA guys in here? Like, what is the deal?
We're awesome.
So we're
Handsomeness
yeah.
is one.
I like your haircut, David. But I was thinking about, Dave Perez, what you said, the tendency to not want to admit our failings or not want to face them head on, or like somebody else mentioned during the webinar, that expose them to your children. That's something that probably most men have a tendency to try to avoid, right? Like, you don't want to be seen as weak, you don't want to be seen as incapable or incompetent or something like that. And I almost think that that's just as dangerous as the participation trophy mindset, right? Like, always rewarding just mediocre performance it's almost the same as avoiding acknowledging when you fall short, because like, for at least especially for kids, like, that gives them this idea that their father has never faltered, and it's like sets up this standard that they can never achieve because everybody fails. They just don't know that their big strong dad never failed, right? He always did the best, right? He could chop down a whole acre of trees in one swing, whatever it is, right? And so that's what your talk there made me think of. So I just wanted to share that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we had a guest. It's not going to drop for a couple of weeks, but his name is Tim Shields, and he wrote a book called Family Board Meeting. I highly recommend it to everybody in here. Great book. But one of the things he said in the podcast, that again, it hasn't dropped quite yet, but he said we should try to kill Superman. We should try to kill the perception of Superman in our kids, because it's not, it feels great. And our kids think my kids, oh, my dad will beat up your dad, that whole thing. But to be able to show true vulnerability, not only to your kids, but to your wife, your significant other, to be able to show that true the human side that fails far more than we succeed, is actually very, very empowering. Right. And right. For them to be able to respect and love you and also recognize that you fail, like that's way more powerful than this Superman identity of, this is who my dad is. No, that's not who your dad is. And like, letting your kids see you cry, right? Letting them see you cry, letting them see the real side of who we are. I think all these things are extremely important places to be. And it does way more good for them than it does, harm to us. Right. So, hey, real quick, who's Mel? Sorry. Who's Mel? No. All right. I'm assuming Mel.
Hey, sorry about that. I was working a bit quietly while listening and really enjoying. I know Steven, and we worked together some time ago, and
oh, nice.
just really, solid person. And I thought I'd join.
No kidding.
I found this incredibly valuable. I come from I'm just over 4.5 years sober, And I hear a lot of things in here that really resonate with me from a recovery standpoint, which
That's awesome.
I would say, from probably about the 6-month mark on, really became more of a journey of growth and self-improvement rather than, avoiding drinking. The obsession was lifted, and I kind of moved to a more, really kind of a journey of self-growth. So
That's awesome,
this
man.
has been inspirational to see, that there are networks like this out there that are kind of divorced from really, I guess, what I would call sort of the idea that there has to be something wrong with you to grow. The starting place has to be a rock bottom. I think it can be a place of, hey, things are going fairly well. How do we just polish up, and how do we really kind of improve? So I appreciate the efforts here, and I'll keep listening. I think this is great.
Awesome,
Thank
man. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
If you're associated with Navy football from 1998 to 2002, you have plenty of failure to show your children as they grow up. And they can show
Lots.
each year from
Lots.
there on.
Yeah, you just have to pull up the record and be like, this is
Old
what
Charlie
it looks
Weatherby,
like,
man.
kids.
Yeah, well, our senior year, what were we? 0-10, 0-11?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Plenty of,
It was pretty bad.
yeah, pretty bad.
It's good stuff, guys.
That's Charlie
I had to
Weatherby's
go get the
strategy, right?
keys.
It was up the middle, up the middle, up the middle punt. Right?
There you go.
Good strategy.
Hey, that's what.
For the most part, yes.
They sent me to Charlie Weatherby's house to get the keys from him the day after he was fired. His keys from
no.
Ricketts.
Oh,
And that was like
that's cold-hearted.
That he was like, "You want to come in for some coffee?" I was like, "No, Chuck. I just need the keys, please. This is awkward."
He's a sweet guy. He's a sweet guy.
He is. He's a very
loved
nice guy,
Jesus.
but I was not prepared for that moment at 21 years old.
I had no idea that you were that is very interesting. And Jeff, let's connect this week. I know, we've been exchanging messages back and forth, but let's connect, get on a call.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Guys, thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
I know we're over, but this was a good conversation, and I have it all recorded, which is even better. Great to see everybody.
Great.
I'm going to stop the record now and
All right,
we'll
guys.
jump off this guy. We'll do
Thanks for
another
joining,
one
guys.
in February, so come join us.